Hello everyone, my name is Andrew Toy, a film critic for Film Book. I will be reviewing The Return, Life After ISIS. So I've said before on a documentary review that by nature, documentaries are biased. Because more often than not, the filmmakers have set out to capture a chain of events that lead to a conclusion that the filmmakers themselves have already reached. Documentaries are a reaction to a result. Very rarely are there documentaries that chronicle events as they're unfolding. This documentary is somewhat caught in the middle, much like these ISIS wives. They're trapped between their lives being a part of this zealot machine and whatever the future holds for them. This was the documentary I watched for the South by Southwest Festival. I feel like the title should be renamed ISIS Brides, Life After ISIS. As it is, it's called The Return, Life After ISIS. The return portion of the title refers to Shamima Begum and Hoda Mutana, who joined ISIS as teenagers. Now they want to return to the countries they came from, but going back home proves to be much harder than they thought. Here in America, there's been a lot of talk about immigrants being detained in cages at the border, and the situation doesn't look much different from the refugees in North Syria. The Return, Life After ISIS, is directed by Alba Satora Klua. The documentary was filmed in beats over a span of 2 years. This is a movie where I found myself struggling with taking a side. Even after the movie, I'm not sure where I stand. This is not a black and white issue. The only thing that's certain is that this is a story of tragedy no matter what angle you approach it from. These women were living in the UK, America, Canada, and they chose to join the bloodthirsty and sadistic ISIS regime. And now that ISIS is falling, to what extent do we show forgiveness? To what degree do we take them at their word that they mean no ill will toward enemies of ISIS? This isn't a new dilemma. Throughout history, we've had to ask the hard question of what to do with totalitarian regimes once they've fallen, followers of dictators, enemies of war. Like the dust has settled, now what do we do with the bad guys that are still standing? Do we offer an olive branch or a bullet? In the case of this documentary, is it fair that Shamima Begum not be allowed back into the UK? At the hands of ISIS, she has already suffered immeasurable loss. She lost 2 friends she went into Syria with, as well as her 3 infants. She claims she wants to just come back and eat a meatball Subway sandwich. But again, I ask, at what point do we take them at their word? Personally, I like to think that they saw ISIS commit such horrible crimes that they wouldn't want any part of it anymore. They took a spin with the devil and now they want off the dance floor. Or have they been brainwashed? There's no way of telling. And if that's the case, what harm can they do in independent countries? In the meantime, these women live in makeshift tents, complete poverty according to what we are shown on screen. But there's a protagonist in this documentary by the name of Govina Zidaik, a Kurdish camp worker who works with the women in spite of the fact that her home was destroyed and her best friend was taken out by ISIS. These women were at the point where they ate grass for food by ISIS's last days in Baghouz. Their children were promised that they would eat chicken in paradise. And I'm sorry, but if that's your version of paradise, a giant KFC kitchen, if that's what you're selling to the kids, then you've got to come up with a much better gimmick. This isn't an uplifting or happy movie, much in line with many documentaries whose main purpose is often to point out what's wrong with the world. It's not about ISIS, it's about ISIS through the eyes of the brides. The hardships they endure, the abuse they put up with, the fear they live with. You get a sense that there's a bigger story going on here that is too big for this movie. There are more behind the scenes facts that were left out, whether intentional or because of time constraints. But it certainly counts as a number in a connect the dots game to help bring a little more clarity to this issue. What I guess I'm saying is that it didn't sway me one way or another because I still feel uneducated about the crisis. I have sympathy where I didn't before due to a lack of exposure, but in my old age I've learned that sympathy conjures up more questions. But while I, as someone who is less than a pawn in the grand scheme of things, I'm really more like a misplaced connect the dot on an elaborate chessboard. I don't know much about events going on across the world, much less in northern Syria. I would like to see more decisive efforts come from those in power who are, hopefully, educated on the big picture to offer help when it is needed to those who need it. I'm going to give The Return, Life After ISIS, a 4 out of 10. This is partially to my own biases against documentaries, also because I don't like feeling helpless after having my nose rubbed in something horrible that's happening today. I don't feel like this is an issue that audiences can offer a hand in, especially when these women's citizenships have already been revoked. And that brings us to the conclusion of my review for The Return, Life After ISIS. I'd like to thank you for watching. You can find more of my work on FilmBook. That's film-book.com. Search for Andrew Toy. You can also find more video reviews on YouTube if you search in Andrew Toy, or Should You Watch It. There's a link for that in the description below. If you like this video, click the like button. Also, don't forget to become a subscriber and ring that bell to get alerts for upcoming videos. If you agree with this video or if you disagree, please leave a comment down below and spark a conversation. And please also consider becoming one of our patrons on Patreon. The link is in the description below. Your support helps us to create more engaging content. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.